everything that's going on in the world of immigration. You're watching masked, unidentified agents kidnap people off the streets, and there's a desperation about what we can all do to help. So that's part of what I want to do here together, is think through ways that we can bring our support for the immigrant community in times like these. As a reminder, my law firm, Lincoln-Goldfinch Law, is based in Austin, Texas, but we're a virtual firm and we can represent clients all over the 50 United States. We do detained cases. So if you know someone who has been picked up or who is in immigration detention and they need our help, please feel free to have their family reach out and we will be able to jump in and support. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to actually start with a good news item. How about that? Mahmoud Khalil, who he's Palestinian. He was one of the leaders of the protests at Columbia University. He's a green card holder, was kidnapped, detained off the street, taken to Louisiana and held for several months, charged with a old ground of deportability that is not used, which said that his activities were negatively impactful or had foreign policy consequences for the United States. But a federal judge ordered that he be released and come back home with his family. And there was a lot of footage of him after his release, and he immediately came out and started leading conversations and discussions about Palestine. And it was really impressive and wonderful to see him free and also continuing his passion. So that's a good news. Mahmoud Khalil has been freed from detention. Now we'll start with bad news, which is sort of the name of the game these days. Today is June 24th. Yesterday, June 23rd, the Supreme Court issued a decision allowing deportations to third countries. This is like shocking, really, if you think about it. What is the Supreme Court even thinking? It was a 6-3 decision, and they say now that DHS can deport immigrants to countries that are not their country of origin, and that those immigrants don't have a right to claim fear or to stop a deportation to a third country. We have been seeing deportations to places like Libya and Sudan, and these are people who have never set foot in these nations, don't speak the language, and there are reports that not only are people being put straight into detention in these countries, but in some cases they are being sold into slavery. So it's just absolutely shocking. There was no sort of insight into what the Supreme Court is even thinking. I know a lot of people are panicking. I talked to the husband of a Mexican woman who was detained yesterday, and he said, I mean, this is a family that they're asking for her to be removed to Mexico because the detention conditions are so horrible. But now they're panicked. Is she even going to go back to Mexico, or is she going to be sent to Sudan or something like that? I mean, in these situations, here's what I want to say. Typically, the people who are being deported into third countries are people who are stateless or they can't be returned to their own country, right? The United States is not just going to start getting into the habit of sending people not to their country of origin. It's much more logistically complicated to deport someone from the Central America all the way over to Libya, right? So they're going to send people back to their home countries. But in the cases where people can't be deported to their home country, either because their home country isn't cooperative or won't receive them back for some reason, those are the instances in which people are going to be sent to third countries. And that's what we have to look out for. And so in some cases, like Venezuelans, for example, where Venezuelans not cooperating with repatriating people, Venezuelans might end up going to other countries like Sudan or Libya. But I also think we need to be thinking about, I mean, this is concerning from a human rights perspective, but also the foreign policy consequences. Like if we deported a Chinese national to Sudan, how is the government of China going to respond with the people from the United States who are detained in China? Where are those people going to be sent? Could they be sent to Iran? Could they be sent to Russia? You know, I mean, it's like, this just is a bad idea for all sorts of reasons, starting with human rights. But it's really like, this was a really big blow from the Supreme Court, a really shocking decision coming out yesterday. So Kagan, Sotomayor, and Justice Brown Jackson were the dissenters in that decision, but there were only 3 of them. So Okay, next item is a good news item. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he's the Salvadoran who had withholding of removal. So it's basically an order of protection saying he could not be returned to El Salvador. And yet we did that and sent him into the notorious prison in El Salvador. He was brought back to the United States, even though the Trump administration claimed that that would never occur. It did occur. Then this is like the best use of trumped up charges, like people say trumped up charges. Talk about trumped up charges for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. As soon as he came back to the United States, they came out with this indictment with like double hearsay claiming that he was trafficking people because in 2019 he was pulled over with immigrants in his car. And so a judge has ordered that he is not a threat to the public. He can be released. Tomorrow he will have a sentencing hearing, presumably, or it's a release hearing, basically, which would give the conditions of his release. So that will happen tomorrow. But just keep in mind, once he gets released from criminal detention, ICE surely is going to immediately detain him. So he's going to go from criminal detention into immigration detention. But at least the federal courts are pushing back on the trumped up charges against him. Next news item is about social media checks on student visas. F visas, that's the most common. F visas, M visas, and J visas. Honestly, you've had to put your social media handles for a while on these applications. That's not really new, but you have to put your social media handles. You have to make your accounts public, and you should expect DOS, the Department of State, to review your social media before you are issued a visa. So be cautious. Be cautious about what you put there. And this is not an era in which the right to free speech and questioning the government is being respected by the Trump administration. And that is the reality. Is that constitutional? No. And it is the reality. And so if people are applying for student visas, just be thoughtful about what you have on your social media because it is going to be reviewed. And if you have, for example, I think if you're questioning the Trump administration, if you're saying anything pro-Palestine for sure, those are the people who are going to start to get denied visas. Next item, in Texas, the legislature this session passed a law mandating cooperation between all county sheriff's departments and ICE. These are these 287G agreements where what that means is that the local law enforcement is deputized to enforce immigration policies. So people who have the sheriffs pull them over, come to their house, all of a sudden they are now authorized and encouraged and expected to ask about immigration status. Most sheriffs are opposed to stuff like this because it erodes their relationship with the public. It is an erosion of public safety because when the immigrant population, which is 1 in 5 at least people in the state of Texas, when they don't believe that they are safe to interact with law enforcement, then public safety is eroded. So it's not good. And yet, of course, Greg Abbott signed it into law. It's about to take effect. So immigrants in Texas need to understand that sheriffs are now also ICE agents in the state of Texas. And Texas agriculture is suffering from enforcement surge. That's our last news item. No big surprises there. That falls in the category of what the F did you expect? Let's get to your questions. Do you recommend holding off for citizenship even if a person has permanent residency due to what's happening? Absolutely not. I absolutely recommend going for citizenship if you are eligible, because once you are a U.S. citizen, you are protected. You can leave, you can move out of the country and come back. You're not required to maintain your residence in the U.S. You can vote. You can petition for more family members. You can, even if you commit a crime, you can't be deported. I mean, there's so many reasons why citizenship is worthy of pursuit. And they are not going after U.S. citizens or people going to their appointments as long as they don't have deportable criminal history or other like fraud on their green card application. So if you have a concern, like I did commit fraud on my green card application or I was arrested and I never disclosed it, those are the instances where you probably don't want to apply for citizenship because they will review that sort of thing. But if you have a clean case, Go forth, get yourself the citizenship and protect thyself for sure. Rebecca on Facebook. This is in Spanish. I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll translate. Bendiciones. Gracias. Un primo tuve corte ayer, pero el abogado no lo representó y la había pagado. El juez le dio una hoja y le quitó la deportación. Le dijo que tenía una oportunidad para quedarse, le dio una hoja y un abogado necesita representar lo que se puede hacer. Parece que quizás el juez le dio una aplazación para buscar un abogado. Esto es normal, entonces debemos consultar con esta persona para ver qué dice esa hoja y qué podemos hacer antes de la próxima audiencia. The question is about what happens if somebody's attorney didn't show up in court and the judge gave them a piece of paper. And what I need to know is what the piece of paper said. Usually judges, in normal circumstances, when we don't see all these like dismissals and detentions that are happening, in normal court circumstances, judges always give like one continuance when an immigrant goes to court and they've never appeared before, they don't have an attorney yet, they can seek a continuance to look for an attorney. And so that's what you want to do if you don't have an attorney, or if God forbid you have an attorney and they don't show up. Tell the judge, I need a continuance, and they should give you another court date. So my guess is that that's what happened, Rebecca. Hi, Melanie. Thanks for being here again with us. What countries are not cooperating, taking their residents back? Can people appeal and stop them from deporting to third world countries? Many countries will not repatriate people who have significant criminal histories. Okay, so that'll happen sort of all over the place. Then there are political reasons that certain countries won't repatriate people. So if an example is Venezuela. You might remember when a bunch of Venezuelans were deported to El Salvador earlier this year. The reason for that, the Trump administration was claiming that Venezuela wouldn't repatriate their people, but actually the Venezuelan government came back and said that that's not true, that the Trump administration wasn't cooperating with Venezuela to repatriate. So there's a little back and forth on that. But sometimes there's a political reason where a country will say, we're not taking back our people until the United States does this thing, that or the other thing. The other countries that can be hard to repatriate to are the countries that don't have a functioning government. So Somalia, Palestine, countries like that, it can be difficult to deport people back to their country because there's no entity on the other end of the line to issue a passport or to receive that person back. So those are the main reasons why this will happen. Instagram, Castillo de Bomba. I applied to the Cuban adjustment. I came through humanitarian parole. Should I send my already expired work permit? Would that be a problem for my adjustment? When you say send my already expired work permit, what do you mean send it? Do you mean renew it? You should renew it. You should get a new work permit under the adjustment. So you could, let me know what you mean by send your work permit, and I can help you figure that out. Okay. Coffee break. Excuse me. I have a social security number. Can I apply for a driver's license or real ID? So some folks have social security numbers even though they're fully undocumented. This is because, and this is old. So like 20, 30 years ago, it was possible to get a social security number even if you had no legal status whatsoever. So somebody who was the beneficiary of the family-based petition that had a long wait time could get a social security number. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have legal status. It's not based on whether you have a social security number or not. It's based on whether you have legal status. My fiance is in Honduras and I'm a U.S. citizen. Is a fiance visa faster than getting married first? This is such a great question. And we get this a lot. What do I do if I fall in love? I'm a U.S. citizen. If I fall in love with somebody from another country, what's the fastest way to get them there, get them here? Probably it is the fiance visa or the K-1 visa. The way that functions is you file the I-129F form. You prove that you have a valid relationship, that you have intentions to marry, that you've met in person within the last 2 years. Okay, those are the basic requirements. Then you file the I-129F with USCIS. Once that's approved, then you get to go to an interview with the consulate in their country, and you get to skip over the National Visa Center. So you go straight from USCIS to the Department of State. That can work rather fast. So in some cases, you can complete a fiancé visa petition within a year, all told. A lot of it depends on the schedule at the consulate and what country they're from and all of that. Then they come here, then you have to get married, then they file for the green card. Some problems with that are, well, has anybody seen the show 90 Day Fiancé? I mean, there's a reason that there's a whole show on this. Because when the fiancé gets here, they're trapped. They don't have work permission or ability to travel for like a good 9 months. So they're here, they're facing a new culture. This couple is often living together for the first time. It can be fraught with drama, but it does get you together in the United States faster. I will tell you that I've seen a lot of relationships fall apart in that phase. But it is the faster way. The alternative is you, the US citizen, go to Honduras, you get married there, and then you file for the marriage-based petition. That is going to add about another 6 months to a year to the process. So you won't be together living in the United States for up to 2 years. But the good news is once your spouse comes in, they've already got the green card. So they're already eligible to work. They're already eligible to travel. They feel much more autonomy in their own life in this new country, and it tends to work out better in my experience. So a lot of things to consider. You want to think through, like, is this person gonna do well basically being in the house, maybe taking some classes, acclimating to this new culture, not being able to travel home and visit their family? Like, are we willing to suffer those consequences in order to be together faster? Or would we rather hold the whole thing take a little bit longer, and then by the time my spouse comes in, we're really more ready to start a regular life together? These are some of the things to think through when you're trying to make the decision. There's other considerations that I won't go into in detail here, but that's the big picture conversation. Okay, Castillo, you're talking about send your expired work permit back. Yeah, I mean, an expired work permit doesn't really do much for you. So, but I would just file. Did you file your Cuban adjustment and you got the work permit based on the adjustment and that's already expired? In which case, your Cuban adjustment has been pending for quite a while. They did put those on hold. Then they started processing them again. I think probably what I would recommend is that we have a consultation about your case, because I want to know why you have an expired work permit and what's going on with the processing of your case. I already applied to residency. Work permit under parole was canceled. Should I turn this one in? I understand. No, I don't think you need to turn this one in unless you were emailed instructions to do so. My husband has TPS from Venezuela, which of course has been canceled. Can we apply for residency now that he has a work permit? His TPS has nothing to do with his eligibility for residency or the work permit. Okay, TPS is separate from residency. So if he's married to you and you are a US citizen and he entered the country legally or he was paroled, we can adjust his status. But I need to know more information about how he came into the country in order to tell you that. I overstayed my visa, but I just got married to a US citizen. Can I still adjust my status? Yes. Yes, that's one of the great things about being the immediate relative of a US citizen, like a spouse, a minor child, or a parent of an adult US citizen. If you entered legally, even if you stayed after the expiration of your authorized stay, you can apply for your green card without leaving the country. I entered with a tourist visa and I never left. Can I fix my status through my son who just turned 21? Yes, same answer, right? Because you entered legally, you never left, you are the immediate relative of a US citizen because your son is 21 years old. So yes, you can apply to adjust your status. Of course, we need to consult, make sure you don't have any other issues like entries and exits, criminal issues, all of that. But in general, yes, under those facts, you can adjust status. Okay, Alex, Dr. Bashir. Does it affect adjustment of status if an asylum applicant who entered the country on a B2 visa and applied for asylum before the 1-year deadline, but when they applied, they were out of status and they are now married to a US citizen? No, you can adjust status So here are the facts. You entered on a visa. You probably had 6 months. You applied for asylum before the year, but after the 6 months. Then you married a U.S. citizen. So your asylum application is pending, and now you want to file for your green card. Totally fine. It doesn't matter. It will not impact your asylum application that you apply for adjustment of status. It will not impact your adjustment of status that you have an asylum application pending. You can have both of those at the same time. Keep them both open. That's my recommendation. Don't withdraw the asylum application until you have the green card in your hand through the adjustment of status. So leave that going while you're applying for adjustment of status. But yeah, you can have both. Are you getting FOIA responses from USCIS, from Estella? We are still getting FOIA responses. We're still getting a lot of approvals. That's also something I want to share. I know that the news out there is like, golly, they're kidnapping people off the streets and at the courthouses, and this is like horrible what's happening. And yes, totally agree. And immigration law is controlled primarily by statute, the Immigration and Nationality Act, which was passed by Congress. And that lays out the framework for how people get green cards through work, through family, through humanitarian cases. The president cannot just revoke those without an act of Congress. So the main thing I want people to know is that all of the ways that people get legal status, which is what I do, it's what immigration lawyers do, they're still functioning. We are getting work permits, green cards, citizenship, consular approvals every single day. That is still happening. And that's kind of the quiet stuff, right? Well, that's not out in the news because there's really horrible stuff going on out in the news. But my message to immigrants is the whole system has not been dismantled. We're just seeing interior enforcement, border enforcement, and interior enforcement ramped up. But the entire system is still a functioning system. And if you qualify for legal status, go for it. Get yourself protected. Do not delay. Okay, that's my soapbox. TikTok. What can cause my boyfriend, this is Sandy, to be deported to a third world country? I'm so sorry that you even have to ask this question. The people who are going to be deported to third countries are people who are from who cannot be deported to their own country, right? So like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, like most countries are receiving their own people back, right? The deportation machine is functioning as it always has. But there's a small group of people who cannot be deported quickly because maybe they have a criminal history and their country doesn't want them back. That's a small group. Or maybe their country is not receiving deportees from the United States for political reasons. That happened with Venezuela. Or maybe the person is stateless, right? Or they're from a country that doesn't have a functioning government like Somalia. These are all the reasons in which the United States would seek to deport somebody to a third country. So it's a fraction of the deportations. They're not going to just all of a sudden start sending people to different countries around the globe. That would be logistically unnecessary and complex for the United States, right? Their aim is to deport people as quickly and as cheaply as possible. That's what they want to do. That's why they're after self-deportations. That's why they're after expedited removals. That's why they're doing all of the BS that they're doing, is they want people deported quickly and cheaply. So they're not going to just start sending Mexican people to Sudan. That would not be quick and cheap for them, right? So they're going to only send people to third countries who cannot be deported quickly and cheaply to their own country. Now, it's horrific. And the people who suffer this, I mean, lawsuits need to be brought, like all of this needs to be talked about. But I do want people who are living in the country who, are worried about getting detained, like by and large, the vast majority of people who get deported are going to go back to their own countries because their own countries will receive them back. That's what's going to happen to the majority of people who get deported. If my boyfriend's green card expired last year, can he renew or does he need to start a new process? Totally, he can renew. Here's the deal. Green cards expire. Permanent residency does not. So once you are a permanent resident and you have a 10-year green card, you have that status for all your life, even if you have the one card and you never renew it. Now, you don't want to travel if you don't have a valid green card, but and you might have trouble, getting jobs and all of that, but your status doesn't expire, okay? Only the cards expire. So if your card is expired, you can absolutely apply to renew it without issue. The one exception to that is the conditional residency, the 2-year green card. When you've been married and you get the green card through marriage and you've been married for less than 2 years, you only get the 2-year card and you have to remove the conditions, and you can lose that type of residency if you don't renew in time. But 10-year green cards, permanent residency, you don't lose that status. That's a lifetime status. Rob Jr., very happy to have your legal team on my fiance's side accomplishing her residency. We're happy too. We are so happy about it, and thank you for leaving your note. And that's a great point. We're still doing the fun stuff. We're still getting work permits and green cards, and there's still a lot of people eligible for benefits out there in the world. Birbal, do I have any information about the U visa? The U visa has not changed. That's one of the programs that's under Congress, and it was a law that was passed by Congress, and those cases are still being processed. We are seeing some slowdowns on like deferred action and like little thises and that's within the U visa, but overall the program is continuing like normal. Okay, so I'm going to move to the action tip of the week. If there's any last minute questions, go ahead and post them and I will answer them before I log off. Okay, and here's why we do the action tip. Okay, we all know we need to call our legislators. We all know we need to volunteer. We need to protest. We need to make our voices heard. But what else can we do? Because that is a desperate refrain from Americans who love immigrants and who appreciate immigration. And what I want to say is it's the little things. It's the little moments of love and support that you provide the immigrants around you so that they feel the love. Because I can tell you, immigrants right now are feeling under attack, of course, and they are feeling like this country absolutely hates them. And it's horrible. And many of them don't want to be here if that's the way that they're going to be treated. And we need them here. We need immigrants here. So to the extent we can lift the voices of love and support and appreciation just in all the little ways, just sprinkle it throughout your life. That is one of the best ways that you can support the immigrant community right now. So here's your action tip of the week. If you have an immigrant neighbor or friend, volunteer to pick up their groceries for them or do something for them so that they don't have to go somewhere that feels risky or dangerous to them. Right now, immigrants are scared to leave their houses. So call your friend who's an immigrant and say, what can I do for you? Do you need me to go pick something up? Do you need me to run get your meds? Do you need me to take your kids somewhere? What can I do to support you to feel like you have a normal life and you are safe living here? There's your tip of the week. And then a question from Aiden in TikTok. Is advanced parole still available? For DACA, yes, it is still available. They are still getting approved. People are still getting admitted. TPS is pretty under attack. All of the TPS programs are being dismantled one by one. So advanced parole, TPS, do not recommend, but DACA still doable. Julian via Facebook in Spanish. This will be our last question. Llevo más de 7 años, no tengo ningún récord negativo, no problemas, no tickets, entré con visa, puedo aplicar algo que me pueda ayudar. Julián, debemos consultar. Tengo más preguntas sobre su tiempo aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero quizás debemos hablar. Mándeme un mensaje directo para programar tu consulta. Y ahora todas las consultas son gratis. I'm doing free consultations, guys, right now. Virtual, in person, whatever, they're free. So if you need a consultation, if a friend or family member needs a consultation, if they've been picked up, if they're worried about being picked up, send me a DM and we will get you scheduled on our calendar. We are not charging for consultations. We love you guys. I know, immigrants are just feeling so under attack right now, but I hope that you know that the vast majority of people living in this country love you, appreciate you. We want you here. We need you here. And we think that this administration is absolutely insane. And I'm so sorry that this is happening. So I'll see you on Thursday in Spanish. Thanks for being here with me today, guys.